Good morning, everyone. My name is Marina. I want to start by asking you all a simple question. When was the last time you were truly at rest? Not just taking a break, but actually feeling at peace. Without guilt, without stress, or thinking about the next thing on your to-do list. Now imagine this. Imagine you're running a race, but you've forgotten the finish line. You're darting, sweating, pushing beyond your limits, but you just can't seem to see that finish line. It feels like the track just keeps extending. This, my friends, is the experience of hustle mentality for most of us. We've been told that sustained efforts, constant striving, and perennial busyness are the roads to achievements and success. For years, I believed the more was always better. More hours of work, more projects, more achievements. I always believed that busyness equals success. If I wasn't constantly working, achieving, or moving forward, I felt like I was left behind. Late nights, early mornings, always saying yes to new projects, I thought this was the price to ambition. And I wore it like a badge of honor. I lived in a constant state of belief that the more I kept moving, the more I was closer to that finish line. But somewhere during the race, I realized there wasn't a finish line I had to arrive at. I was just so exhausted from the running that I stopped on the tracks and asked myself, what if success isn't arriving at the finish line, but to start believing there isn't a finish line I had to run to? What if I told you that I had to unlearn all of that constant running, constant need for validation, and constantly pushing myself beyond my limits? That success wasn't about doing more, but actually about letting go. Today, I want to talk to you about the art of unlearning. How I had to unlearn the hustle mentality and how doing so changed my life. I am going to break my talk into 3 parts. Part 1, the illusion of hustle. Let me take you back a few years. I was deep in the grind. I was excelling in academics, working on side projects, started writing research papers, I was heading the student council, and was always chasing the next big opportunity. My schedule was packed. If I wasn't working, my mind immediately sent me on a guilt trip. If I wasn't exhausted till my last muscle by the end of the day, I felt like I wasn't trying hard enough. I never stopped trying new things, taking on new projects, saying yes to everything, and always looking for the next big thing to be a part of so that I could feel I had worked hard enough to finally rest without having to worry about not doing enough. One night, I remember sitting at my desk at 2 a.m., working on my laptop, running on my 3rd cup of coffee, eyes heavy, legs numb, but my mind racing. I had assignments to complete, projects, deadlines, tests to study for, and an endless list of tasks. I knew I was exhausted and my body seriously needed to rest. But I kept telling myself, just 1 more hour, just push yourself a little harder. Another cup of coffee, then you can rest, then you'll be successful. No amount of completed assignments, achieved targets, or covered deadlines made me feel satisfactory as I felt there was always more to achieve. I thought I was being productive and progressive, when in reality, I was just being busy. I wasn't moving forward, I was running in circles. Then my body gave out. Physically, I was down, but my mind still kept telling me to push and push. The second part of my talk is the breaking point. The next morning, I woke up and I couldn't move. I was exhausted and my body had completely given up. I was dehydrated and my mind was foggy. Even though I had gotten some sleep, it felt like I had been hit by a truck. I was lost and zoned out. The rush and the motivation that used to fuel me was gone. I started experiencing a huge memory block. I lost track of my tasks and of what I was doing. It felt like the truck that hit me had completely taken away my connect with reality. I was burnt out. It hit me at that moment that working hard wasn't working anymore. I had spent so much time pushing myself to new limits, learning how to hustle, that I had forgotten how to rest, how to give time for myself, and how to build up energy for things that mattered. We live in a culture that glorifies overwork. We idealize the grind. We think that a person is successful and has accomplished in life if he is constantly working and busy. This resembles a corporate setup. You see someone always walking, sitting, running, typing on their laptop, always on Zoom calls, always talking about responding to emails, and you immediately think corporate must be so hard. Look at the poor guy working so much. He's definitely going to make it big someday. This phase of my breaking point was the most important in my journey of unlearning, because without this, I wouldn't realize that my hustle mentality was not something to be proud of, but something that needed to end. It was at this point when I started questioning myself, what if success isn't adding more to your plates? What if it's about subtracting? Take your time to ponder upon that thought. In the last part of my talk, I will be talking about my process of unlearning. After all the stress of hustle started catching up to me and I reached my breaking point, I decided to do something radical. I started unlearning. Here are 3 things that I did in my process of unlearning. Unlearning the idea that rest is laziness. I used to feel guilty about taking breaks in between work as if rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. I started believing that if I rested for a while before completing my work, I would lose focus. I started giving myself that amount of breaks as a reward for completing a task or achieving something. I believed that I had to work hard enough to earn rest. But over time, I began to shift my mindset. I started treating rest as a fuel and not a reward. I realized that I would actually lose focus if I don't take necessary breaks in between work. In the moments when I stepped away, took a walk, or allowed my mind to wander, were the moments when my best ideas emerged, not when I was drowning in exhaustion. Second was unlearning the belief that saying no is a weakness. I used to think and believe that my worth was determined based on how much I could handle or the level of multitasking I could do. I thought that commitments, pressure, and responsibilities were the factors that defined me. But I learned that I had more energy for things that actually mattered when I started saying no to things that didn't align with my priorities. And guess what? The world didn't end. Third, unlearning my need to measure my worth by my productivity. I spent years believing that a successful and productive day was measured by how many things I completed and how many targets I achieved. And this mindset was so deeply rooted in me that I would not be able to sleep at night thinking I've not been productive enough. I'd spend the night thinking about the things I had to do the next morning. But over time, instead of asking myself, how much did I do today, I started asking, did I live today? Did I connect with someone? Did I experience joy? Did I allow myself to simply be? And that shift changed everything. Because as youth, we are so worried about reaching the top that we forget to live and experience youthfulness. Unlearning isn't easy. It's uncomfortable and not widely accepted. It requires us to question our beliefs we've held for years, to dismantle the foundations we once depended on, and to step into uncertainty. It demands that we challenge societal norms, rewire our thinking, and to accept that the very things that we once thought were our strengths may be the ones holding us back. But this process is necessary because sometimes growth isn't always learning something new. It's about letting go of what no longer serves us. Today, I stand here in front of you not as someone who has mastered life, but as someone who is still unlearning. I still catch myself glorifying busyness, still struggle with the urge to measure my worth in achievements, and still battle the guilt of rest. But I am choosing every single day to unlearn, and I invite you to do the same. So I'll ask you again, when was the last time you were truly at rest? And if you can't remember, maybe it's time to unlearn the hustle, embrace the pause, and finally breathe. Thank you.